All right, guys and gals, let's talk about the man of the hour, Richard Sherman. Most definitely, in most people's eyes, the best cornerback in the NFL these days. But is he as good as he thinks he is? If you don't know who Richard Sherman is, then you've been living under a rock for the last couple days. NFC Conference Championship game, Seahawks versus 49ers. 2014, it was January 19th, and he makes an unbelievable play out of position. Crabtree even pushed off a bit, and he contorts his body, jumps up, tips it to a teammate, and gets the pick. And that's the benefit of having a corner who's 6'3", guys, who runs a 4.5. Post-game interview, blows up. He's excited, he's pumped up, he's not articulate, and the Twitter world and Facebook world blows up. Richard Sherman gains 300,000 new followers over the last 4 days. His jersey sales climbed to number one. But this is nothing new with Richard Sherman, guys. It's just the interview happened on just about the biggest stage possible, unless it was a Super Bowl. And chaos ensues. So is he as good as he thinks he is? That's what we're going to talk about today. By the way, guys, we did a video last year, and it was titled something like, "Was your favorite QB growing up as good as you think he was?" And we broke down some stats on some of the famous QBs, and I'll tell you, you'll be surprised. So that link's going to be in the top left-hand corner. So click that when you get a chance. By the way, this show is brought to you by MaddenEdge.com. Take your Madden game to the next level. Visit MaddenEdge.com, guys. We have guys dominating on every system: PS4, Xbox One, PS3, and Xbox 360. Guys in the top 1% and top 100 in the world. So do visit MaddenEdge.com. Now let's talk about the man of the hour, and let's find out just how good he is. Here's Richard Sherman, guys. We're going to go with cornerbacks here. And you judge cornerbacks pretty much by interceptions. And his first year he had 4. The next 2 years he had 8, and he had 8 this year. That brings his total to 20 in 3 years, guys. That is a very, very good number. We're going to show you how good it is. We're going to compare it to some of the best guys. We'll take a look at that number 4, though. 4 is a good number. 8 is exceptional. So Richard Sherman in his first 3 years has 20 interceptions. He says he's the best, and you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who has better numbers over these last 3 years. By the way, did you guys see that interview that he did with Skip Bayless? There's a bunch of stuff about Richard Sherman that's going to make you love him or make him hate him. He kind of degraded Skip Bayless, and at the same time, he does charity work, and you can tell it's from the bottom of his heart. Young kid from Compton. Graduated at the top of his class in high school and ended up graduating from Stanford. Very smart young man. Gets a little pumped up at sometimes. So let's compare him to. I have a list of guys over there on that notepad, and we're going to go with, first off, Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is obviously faster, a little shorter though, doesn't have the wingspan. But let's get down to what we came here to talk about. 53 interceptions in 14 years. All right. First 3 years, Deion Sanders is at 5, 3, and 6. Brings his total to 14. All right. For most guys over the last 20 years, would say that Deion Sanders is the greatest cornerback that they've ever seen. Some people say the greatest of all time. I'm going to have to dispute that fact. But Definitely one of the greatest cornerbacks that I've ever seen. Deion's career high, is 7. If we're judging by the first 3 years, and best year, Richard Sherman has already surpassed those numbers. All right, still has a long way to go to get to 53, but at this rate, as you'll see, guys, most corners get better as they go on. Most corners. So his best years might be in front of him, guys. So far, so good. He's on the pace to shatter what Deion Sanders was able to do. Let's go to the next one. By the way, let's take a look at some of these all-time stats here. You see here, primetime isn't even in the top 20, guys. He's right there, but he's not there. The Charlie Woodson there, so he's played about two years more than Deion Sanders. And we see a lot of famous names up here like Ed Reed, Ronnie Lott, Darren Sharper. But these guys here are safeties. All right, so safeties have a little bit more freedom in regards to being able to roam and gamble and go for picks. So we're not going to compare safeties because that's just a different position. But as far as corners go, right now, Richard Sherman is on a pace to shatter what Deion Sanders was able to do. You got the guy Paul Krause, Emian Tunnell, and Rod Woodson right here was a corner and a safety. So we'll take a look at that. All right. And then Dick Night Train Lane, guys. He was a corner. Let's go to this one. Oh, no, we're going to go here. Go to number 2. I believe this one is Bailey. So we saw prime time. He was at, what, 14? I would take a look at Champ Bailey. Shorter, probably a little bit faster in his prime. There's no probably to it. He was. Richard Sherman's advantages were that he's taller, he studies like heck, and he used to play wide receiver, so he kind of knows what these guys are going to do on offense. That gives him a huge advantage. And as we can see, in the first 3 years, Champ Bailey ended up with 13 guys. And as we can see, if you just look at Champ Bailey's career here, if he had 4 every year, it'd be ridiculous, right? He'd be at about 60 or so. Right now, he's at about 52, which leaves him just outside of the top 20. His greatest year was 10. As you can see, these guys get better as they go on. All right? But if we're comparing by the first 3 years, Richard Sherman is head and shoulders above. I hope I have a Darrelle Revis link in here. I'm pretty sure I do. If not, we will definitely look at it. Or I just deleted Darrell Green, so we'll have to just go from here. And we'll pull up Revis, and then we'll pull up Darrell Green as well. Don't ask me how that happened, but it did. Tell you what, you try and get everything lined up, and it still doesn't work out. All right, let's go to Revis real quick. All right, Darrelle Revis has played about 6 years. Well, 7 now. All right, and you can see in his career, he has 21 interceptions. So we already know that in 3 years, Richard Sherman is dominating him. And the funny thing about this is a couple years ago, when Richard Sherman kind of was just breaking into the league, he tells people that he's better than Revis, and Revis was kind of saying, well, I don't know how he can say that. Well, he had 12 interceptions in his second year. And he was probably just taking a look at the stats of Revis and saying that he's better. In 6 years, Revis has 21 INTs. In 3 years, Sherman has 20. So it's not even close. Revis is still going, Sherman's still going, but Sherman's obviously the better corner. I don't even know how we can even dispute that. Darrell Green. Let's take a look at Green real quick. I have a 15-minute limit here. So, got to kind of hurry up. Darrell Green, as we can see, is a Hall of Famer. And not taking anything away from Revis, I'm just saying if we want to just break it down and be truthful about it. You can see Darrell Green is a Hall of Famer. And if we're taking a look at interceptions right here, he would love to have 4 interceptions every year, because some years he has 1, 2, 3. His best year was 5. 54 just outside of the top 20. So we already know that in the first 3 years, Darrell Green is not even close. That's just what it is, guys. Let's take a look at this guy, Tunnell. Emian Tunnell, I think his name was. We'll do a couple more and then we'll get out of here. We'll go Night Train Lane, Charles Woodson, then we'll get out of here. Emian Tunnell ends up with 79. He's second all time. And now here we're talking about some of the greatest corners of all time. All right, sorry, Dion. I don't care if the game has changed. We're just going on numbers. And this guy put up 10, 7, and 7 in his first 3. So we're talking about 24. So he is 4 above Richard Sherman. And this is all time. The one thing about this guy is I don't know if he was a safety or a corner. I couldn't find out. So if any of you guys know about Emian Tunnell, go ahead and post it in the comments. I believe he was a corner, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to put my fist in my mouth. And then we'll go to good old Dick Night Train Lane. We got to take a look at Rod Woodson and also Charlie Woodson. So far, only the best of the best have more interceptions. And we're talking about going way back to the 30s and 40s. Emian Tunnell, guys. And this is Dick Night Train Lane. This is who I would say is the best corner of all time. And in his first year, he put up 14. The second year, 3. The next year, 10. So in his first 3 years, he's at 27. All right, and then 6, 7, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4. And when he had 1, he retired. So that's when you take a look at these numbers and you take a look at all these other greats that we've shown you, and you see that 4 up there, you say, oh, 4 is pretty good. All right, 14 is exceptional. Lester Hayes from the Raiders had 13 one year, I remember growing up. So 68, probably about 5th all time. Now we're talking. He's in the 20s, and there's only 2 guys who have been in the 20s in their first 3 years, guys.